I was at McMaster between 1998 and 2002, and I majored in comparative literature and history. I did a combined honors degree, and yeah, I finished in 2002. Right now, I am a national arts reporter for CBC News. I work for CBC Television, CBC Radio, and CBC.ca in Toronto. I have a really fun job. Because I'm a national arts reporter, it means that anything that happens in Canada or overseas that has to do with music, film, literature, very special to me because I majored in it, theater, visual arts, we cover. So that goes anything from Toronto International Film Fest to the Oscars, the Grammys, the Gillers, which are the biggest literary prize in Canada, Mervish, musical extravaganzas. So it's a really amazing job, and I interview people and I do stories about these events. Okay, so there are two types of days that I have. One type of a day that I have is when I'm doing what we call hitting. No, I'm not a baseball player, I wish I was, but hitting in reporting world means that you're reporting live. Now, I'm not a host, I'm a reporter. So it means that I appear in studio once an hour to let the viewers know what's new in the world of arts, what's the biggest news that day. Sometimes it's something as simple as which film topped the box office. Sometimes it's an obituary of somebody in the world of entertainment who had passed away. Sometimes it's a musician or an author who had put out a CD or a book that we had interviewed. So on those days, this is what my typical day would look like on the days when I'm hitting or live reporting. I would show up to work at around 9:30. Prior to that, I would have read already the stories on Entertainment Wires to have an idea of what are the stories that I would like to cover. We have an arts unit meeting between 10 and 10:30, during which we decide what are the stories that day that we want to cover. At 10:30, the producer and I discuss what the questions will be that the host will ask me and how we're going to organize the material. Then, yes, I have to go into hair and makeup because that's part of the fun TV world. And we will change those stories every hour on the hour between 11 and 5. And I'm not teleprompted, which means I have to talk from my head. So I have to know the points that I'm going to make, and I have to be really well prepared. And it can get a little stressful, especially if the stories are changing quickly. So you have one story at 11 o'clock, another at 12, another at 1, and you're just going into the studio and presenting that material in what's hopefully engaging and clear way. So that's one type of my day. The second type of a day I can have is when I'm what we call filing. So one thing is called hitting, the other thing is called filing. Filing means you're reporting for a specific show. In my case, it's most often The National, hosted by Peter Mansbridge. It's the big show, it's the show every reporter wants to be on. So when you have a story on The National, you really want to make sure it's good. Often on those days, for example, tomorrow I'll be having one of those days, often on those days, you're given a story in the morning and you have to make it happen by the night. So at 10 o'clock, you will have no interviews, no research, no visual material, and you have to somehow make that story happen by 9 p.m. when the National goes to air. It means you will find people you will interview them, your producer will find the visuals that match the theme of that story, you will write the story, incorporating the interviews that you had done. So I will write the story, which is my favorite part because I'm a comparative literature grad. I'll write the story, somebody from the National, one of the editors, will go through the story with me, make their remarks and changes, and then we will put it together in an edit suite to make sure that it's ready to go to air at 9 o'clock. So that's our filing day. Those days are long, 12 or 13 hours, and you often don't get a chance to eat or even get a coffee. It's really go, 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 but you run on adrenaline and they're really fun. It's my favorite kind of day. I feel that much of what I learned during my years in humanities at McMaster is applicable to my work today as an arts reporter. I remember they always used to tell us, humanities grads, you know, humanities teaches you how to think. And at the time, I thought they were just saying that to make us feel better because we were not as eminently employable as, say, the engineers. But now I know that that's absolutely true. I think humanities, both history and comparative literature, and all the other courses I took in philosophy and English and classics, taught me how to think and how to analyze material. And that is what you do as a journalist every single day. When you are bombarded with stories and press releases and you have to find the truth, you have to find the essence of it. You have to look at 3 different stories and find what the important points are and what the not so important points are. As a humanities student, you're doing that every day when you're reading any of your material. Secondly, I love to write. I've always loved to write. And you don't go into humanities unless you really, really like writing essays. So being here at McMaster, having amazing professors who were really tough and had very high expectations of us in terms of writing, the clarity of our writing, the beauty of our writing, finding your voice, those are all things that they ask of you as a journalist. The best journalists are great writers, really know their voice, know what it is that's unique, so that when they write a story, everybody understands it, but it's still something unique to them. I really feel I found my writing voice at McMaster. So analysis of material and skillful writing are the 2 things that I really took back from McMaster that I use in my work every day as a journalist. When I was, let's say, 2nd or 3rd year at McMaster, I enjoyed the academia so much that I was sure I wanted to become a professor. And I knew I wanted to write. I knew that I enjoyed writing, that while everybody else was, kind of whining and grunting about essays being due, I loved it, I reveled in it. However, I wanted to do something that was, I guess, immediate and more in the current, whereas I felt that in my academic work, often we were analyzing work of great thinkers, great writers who had lived in the past. So I felt a little bit removed from, I guess, having that immediate, original, quick thought and getting it out there to people. I actually feel like academia and journalism are very similar. They just do things in different ways. So in the 4th year, I realized that what I wanted to do was actually not to be an academic, but to be a journalist. And it was hard because I didn't know anybody who had gone to McMaster Humanities before me who had done that. I'm sure there are people, just that there was nobody in my circle of friends or people I knew who were slightly older than me who had done it. So even from my professors, getting guidance on how to actually do it was a little bit hard, but my professors were extremely encouraging, and a few of them, like Dr. Joseph Adamson, Dr. Jean Wilson, were really believed that I could do it, which meant a whole lot. So I ended up doing my postgraduate degree in journalism at Ryerson for 2 years, right after Mac, and that helped me really get into the field. But those basic skills, the writing, the analysis, were already there, and that goes back to McMaster. I've always liked writing for newspapers. At McMaster, I wrote for Between the Lines, the Humanities newspaper, and I've done a few things for the Silhouette, but mostly BTL, I wrote for Between the Lines. And even when I was in high school, I was one of the editors of my high school newspaper in East Hamilton. So I knew that I liked the rush of journalism. I enjoyed the rigors of it. And so in addition to my McMaster work, I just knew that the tempo of the journalistic life, which a lot of people don't like because it's so quick and hectic and crazy, I really enjoyed. And I think that cemented the idea in my head that that's what I was supposed to do. Travel is one of the main perks of my job. As a producer, when I was working as a producer at CBC News, I had gone to the Cannes Film Festival, which was wonderful. I had gone to Glasgow, to London, to New York. While I've been a reporter, I have been to the Oscars in LA, covering the Oscars, which for an entertainment reporter is a bit like covering an election if you're a political reporter, or the Olympics if you're a sports reporter, meaning You don't eat or sleep for about 7 days, but it is everything you think it is. I mean, it is glamorous, it's hard work, it requires absolute focus. I love going to those big award shows because you meet journalists from around the world. That's actually my favorite thing. I don't care much for talking to stars. We do this for our living and it's fun and it's great, but they're people like any other people. It is amazing when you get to a place like the Oscars and you've met journalists from Australia to Albania and they're all there doing the same job. And there's a real sense of, people always think it's so competitive, but when you're in a place like that, there's a real sense of camaraderie, which I love. I think it's good to be confident, but it's not good to be delusionally confident. I'll give you an example. When I moved to Toronto right after leaving McMaster, I was going to Ryerson for journalism for a postgraduate degree. I needed a job and I wanted to have a thinking job, as in I didn't want to be flipping burgers. I've done that in my life, there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to have a job that kind of employed my skills. I knew I really liked history, I knew I was communicative, I wasn't shy, I liked talking to people. I ended up getting a job as a teaching assistant in history department at Ryerson, which I absolutely loved. I'd never TA'd prior to that. But the way I got that job was literally, I looked at the courses that were available. I said, European history, World War II, I can do this. This was basically my major at McMaster. I know I have the knowledge, I know I have the skills. I'm not a master's student in history, but I have a BA in history. I think I can do this. I marched in, I literally presented myself to the professor there, Dr. Aron Kislanko, who's still at Ryerson as well as at U of T, and said, I want to be a TA in history. I did really well in history at McMaster. I won some essay prizes. Here are a few of my essays. Here's a reference from my professor at McMaster, head of the history department at that time, Dr. Virginia Oxon. Here are, people you can check with. I can do this. Look, I don't even know you, and I just marched into your office and basically applied for a job. And I got that job. And I've had a very similar experience with things at CBC. If you really feel you're qualified, get all your ducks in line, really get everything prepared, have your reference letters, have examples of your, let's say, your writing or anything else you have done in there, and be confident that you can do that. And I mean, people will ask you, well, what if you're not ready to do this? And you can say, I'll learn. It's just be honest, but be confident. I think that that's always a great way to be if you're looking for any job. The advice I have for students watching this video, especially if they're humanities students at McMaster, is enjoy your time here. Really delve into those wonderful books and wonderful texts and that heated debate that you have with your classmates. Enjoy the passion of it and the headiness of it. It will prepare you for the real world, quote unquote. Not that I live in a real world, I'm an arts reporter, but it will prepare you more than you think. Really delve into it and enjoy it. I always thought people go into humanities because they're passionate about it. This is not the program you go into because you're in for the big bucks. You're into it because you love it, because you love writing or music or philosophy or history. So really explore that passion, because when you are an undergrad or grad student, you have that time. Once you enter the working world, you will not have that time. Enjoy the time you have now to explore your thinking, explore your passions, and that will sow the seeds of who you will become as a person, and I think it'll keep you in really good stead once you enter your chosen place of work. And another thing, when your professors tell you that they're teaching you how to think here at McMaster Humanities, they're not kidding.